Hey guys, welcome back to another impressions video. This time to talk about Sonic the Hedgehog, the original, the first Sonic game released in 1991 for the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive, I guess. I did play this through the Mega Drive collection on the PC on Steam, which is basically a collection of several Genesis games, and of course the Sonic games are in there. And I'm really glad I played this game because I grew up as a Nintendo fan, and me and most of my friends had a Super Nintendo, and so we played all those great Super Nintendo games. But only a friend or two that I remember from my childhood had a Sega Genesis, and from what I recall, I remember playing Sonic 2 and 3 at their houses, but not necessarily Sonic 1. I don't know if they didn't have that game or we just didn't decide to play that game. So Sonic 1 is definitely a game that I don't think I ever played it, even back in the day. So it was good, I guess, playing this game for the first time. Although a couple years ago I did play it on the Nintendo 3DS via the 3D collection. But I didn't finish the game as opposed to now, which is kind of surprising because this game is actually pretty short and fairly easy, I'd say. If you play it for the first time, it may take you maybe between 2 and 3 hours to complete the game. So a very short game. It has, I think, 7 zones, and each zone has like 3 acts. So a total of maybe 20 something levels, or maybe a little bit less because the last zone doesn't have as many acts. Overall a pretty fun game. The story, it's very simple. Obviously, this being an early '90s, platforming game, you basically play obviously as Sonic, and you have to save the his animal friends, I guess, from Dr. Robotnik, and at the same time try to gather the Chaos Emeralds, I think they're called, in order to get the true ending, which by the way I didn't get. I only got a few Chaos Emeralds, but it's kind of disappointing because that's kind of like the normal ending, and it's very uneventful if you don't collect all the Chaos Emeralds. But nevertheless, I can always go back and try and get the true ending, if you will. And then from a sound perspective, the game has a lot of classic sound effects that have made their way into the modern Sonic games. When you jump, the sound of the coins and things like that, and of course a pretty solid soundtrack with a lot of classic tunes that have become a kind of like a staple also as far as the Sonic soundtrack. Graphically, I think this game is extremely impressive considering it's a 1991 game, and it definitely put the Sega Genesis up on a pedestal, if you will, because at that point, it was a very heated battle between the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis to see, which one was the true 16-bit, king. So Super Mario World was already out, at least in Japan, by the time Sonic came out. So Sonic was kind of like the response of Sega to Super Mario World. In order to, I guess, fight it out to see who had the most iconic, I guess, mascot in the industry. And this game definitely, the graphically looks beautiful. It's very colorful, and that is, I guess, emphasized in the different zones throughout the game, because the zones have different themes. Green Hill Zone has a lot of like the greens and the blue sky, so a very pleasant looking, happy place to be at. But as you progress through the other levels, they also have their unique features and atmosphere and scenic and sceneries, that make the game very unique. And the graphics, I think the most impressive part is kind of like the performance. Because even at high-speed parts, especially in Green Hill Zone, when you have all these like loops and things that you can, I guess, traverse at a high speed, the game maintains a pretty solid fluidity in terms of the frame rates and the speed of the screen. And at the time, it was a very impressive I guess, feature, to look at these games and how fast Sonic would move through the levels, and it was very, very impressive, especially on Sonic 2 and 3. Those are the ones that I remember playing, as a kid. but Sonic 1, definitely has a lot of impressive, I guess, parts in the game in terms of graphics. And then I guess if I have to differentiate this particular PC version or Steam version, is that there is a slowdown in the performance, but that is not due to the game itself. It's due to the emulation of the game. So unfortunately, the emulation for the studio in charge of making this game collection, it's not perfect, unfortunately. So there was some slowdown in the game, unfortunately. But going to the gameplay, which is the meat and potatoes of a side-scrolling platforming game, the main feature and the main, I guess, innovation for the Sonic game was how fast you could go. And that was definitely the most impressive feature, and I agree. It definitely stands out from other platforming games in the sense that you have that very fast-paced, I guess level design for the most part, and I'll get into some of the cons that I have with this game in particular. But it's very fun playing. The early levels in the game have a pretty good flow, especially when you know where you're going. And I think that's the other part of the gameplay that I really like. The different tiers or the different levels that you have. You can go up low, medium, or high, if that makes any sense, on the levels. So if you get knocked out from a platform by an enemy or from a platform on the top level, you may end up in another section of the level at the bottom. So there's always that fun exploration aspect of the game, which kind of leads me to my next point, which is a little bit of a critique in the game lacking a level select or a overworld map, kind of like Super Mario World had. Where you can, once you beat a level, you can always just go back and replay it as many times as you want, as long as you have, the lives, obviously. But I wish this particular Sonic game had something like that. I believe there's a level select, but it's like a hidden. You have to input like a cheat code, and I believe this is the case also for Sonic 2 and 3. I plan on playing those games, but from what I remember, there's no like level or world select, which is like a map, which is very very disappointing, because I would have loved to, as soon as I beat a level, kind of like replay it immediately, just to kind of like improve my time or my score, just to have that added replay value. I guess you can always replay the game, but it's very annoying, like if you're trying to play a particular level, to be able to replay the game just to experience that level. And I think it's very counterintuitive to be inputting a cheat code in order to select those levels. So that's kind of like a knock that I have on the game. And the second knock I have is that, for being a super fast mascot in a game that I guess pushes the player to play the levels at a very fast pace. Some of the pure platforming levels, especially like in the second zone, I think it's the first example that you have. Some of the levels are extremely slow, especially the pure platforming levels, and the slowness of the picking up momentum for the Sonic character in the game. The physics in the game don't really favor this type of gameplay. Making some of the jumps and platforming a little bit annoying and extremely slow. That's something that I just cannot wrap my mind around it. Like the Mario games in general are faster than the Sonic games, which is kind of like counterintuitive, and I guess a little bit disappointing in a way, because again, if you're playing especially like vertical levels, when you have to go up and from the bottom to the top through platforms, it just feels very, very slow, and that's something that I didn't like about the Sonic the Hedgehog 1. I believe that's improved a little bit with the level design of Sonic 2 and Sonic 3, but I'll be the judge of that when I play those games, and I'll probably make impressions videos for those as well, and compare the the level design. But overall, I'm not a big fan of the game being slow, very slow at certain parts, which is a little bit on the disappointing side. And now, Finally, the overall package, I think it's a great platformer. It may not be I may not consider it a masterpiece. There's some things that like I said, that I have a little bit of a, I guess, negative reaction, like, the slowness of the platforming, and also the ring system. I'm not a fan of collecting rings, and then when you get hit, they scatter all over the place. To me, that I always felt like a little bit cheated when you lose all the rings. I don't know. It's just a feeling of it just doesn't feel good, when you lose all the rings and you only collect like a third of the ones that you have been collecting. But I guess that's kind of like the punishment for getting hit. But at the same time, a saving grace mechanic, to collect as many rings that you lost in order to that's kind of like your life in this game, your life meter. So not a huge fan of the ring mechanic at the same time, but overall I think Sonic 1 is a very good platforming game. I can see how it paved the way for the Sonic mascot to become a staple for Sega and a savior, really, because Sonic really became the flagship of that Sega Genesis. With the trilogy, Sonic 1, 2, and 3, and then there were also other games released on the Genesis that were pretty good, starring Sonic. So unfortunately, another game that I played earlier in the year, and I do have an impressions video, is Sonic 4 Episode 1, which playing Sonic 1 now kind of reminded me of Sonic 4. Some of the levels are very similar, like Sonic 4 actually kind of like remade or reimagined some of the levels from Sonic 1. But it just blows my mind how the original game, Sonic 1, it's a much better product than Sonic 4 Episode 1. And you guys, if you go back and watch my impressions video, I have nothing but negative things to say about Sonic 4 Episode 1. The pure platforming sections in that game were just a freaking nightmare. And it's amazing how the original game, kind of like a 30-year-old game, it's such much better than a modern I guess reimagining of that game, which I think it's kind of funny. But at the same time, the reason why Sonic sometimes is kind of like the laughing stock, unfortunately, I don't like when people diminish some of the modern Sonic games. Some of them are, I guess with a reason, because they're obviously kind of like average games, but I feel like for the most part the Sonic games are fun, and Sonic 1, being the first one, is actually a very impressive first effort by Sega. So yeah, that's it for now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all later.